beautiful.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sin.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Souls Mixtape number 8.
Yeah, it is literally another episode of Soul's Mixtape number 8, because the previous episode, we're not 100% sure what happened. We think it may have been the internet in the remote part of Quebec that Sin was in, but
Yeah,
the audio that ended up on the cloud storage was, completely unlistenable.
thank you, Sophie. And today, we're gonna answer the questions that patrons have asked us about the Souls games.
I was going to say we try to get to the patron questions first, but there was one patron question that was asked ages ago, and
Oh no,
it had a very specific answer. I'm like, we'll do it next time, and I haven't done it yet, and I'm sorry to that person. It
we'll do
involved
it.
all of our Snack Covenant characters answering questions separately.
Okay, so the first question is from Alice. Hi, hi. So I've
Hi.
always wondered about the people melting into the walls in Unseen Village, parentheses, Bloodborne. What happened and when? Was it a result of how they made the one reborn? Did it happen before or after Mikolash bounced to Nightmare Land? Or are they simply bizarre statues?
Well, Sin, what do you think?
Here's what I think. You know how you have Lawrence in Yarnum and Willem in Bergenworth?
Yeah.
Well, Mikolash wanted something similar. So how I imagine it is Mikolash at some point made some sort of a pact with the Marians where he told the Marians that maybe I can help you in whatever way you need. Maybe I can make Thumer great again. Maybe I can help you get to the surface. Whatever. I'll help you in whatever way you want if you help me get Cos to unblock me on Twitter.
Okay.
And they're like, okay, deal. So to do those things, Mikolash and the Marians together needed their own Bergenworth or their own Yarnum, and they found the Unseen Village. And so in my head, like how I kind of imagine it is like Mikolash bursting into the village, like slamming the doors open with like Thumer ladies and the bagman and all those people just like storming, from behind him and like taking over the village. And like there's panic in the village and everybody's screaming. And then the bell ladies start performing rituals. And then the red moon descends and the boundaries are blurred and then everything becomes malleable and people are running and some people run into the walls and the walls are malleable and so they start passing through them and some get through them and some get stuck and it's like
The thing is, what you just said has made me realize that the relationship between Mikolash and Cos is the relationship between Glinner and J.K. Rowling. So the thing about these statues in the Unseen Village is they're on both sides of those walls,
Mhm,
because there's some of those walls are also the walls of the buildings in Yahar'gul that you go through. So there's one particular one where when you go down the stairs, you just see all these people reaching through the walls on the side of the door. It's
mhm,
yeah, what you said, it's whatever's happening in Advent Plaza leads to these people frantically scrambling and escaping, but there's something warping the nature of reality. It's become kind of fluid and malleable,
mhm,
and consequently they've ended up halfway into the wall. They're fused into the
mhm,
wall.
mhm,
Kind of like Philadelphia experiment stuff. Um, so yeah, it's that presumably they're the people that were sacrificed. The thing is, when you talk to Adela in the cell,
mhm.
she mentions she can hear these screams in the distance,
Yeah,
and you can't hear them because they're not on the soundtrack. The hymn that they're
yeah.
singing is on the soundtrack, but you can't hear the screaming. But presumably it's supposed to be there. And that big gate in Yahar'gul's blocked. So
Mhm,
you it's blocked until after the red moon.
mhm,
So the impression you get is there's some horrible ritual happening past the gate. You don't know exactly what it is.
mhm,
And then you're arriving in the aftermath. The thing about Mikolash and the Thumerians is it's kind of a question mark, because I think it's inarguable that they're working with Mensis.
mhm.
because they're the ones kidnapping people and dragging the
Yeah.
bodies to Yahar'gul. But also Mikolash is stuck in the nightmare at that point. Like he's been
Mm-hmm.
stuck in the nightmare since before the game starts, technically. Like actually, if you start the game over and you have like 60 insight, like you can hear Murgo crying from the beginning. So like that stuff's already
Mm-hmm.
happened.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like the thing about like the One Reborn is like there's body part monsters all over Yahar'gul when you get there after the Red Moon. So there's
Yeah.
like the inside out werewolves, and there's like the
Yeah.
masses of like skulls and bones and things that just crawl around like a slug.
Yeah.
Um, and like you can like they specifically do this thing where they place the inside out werewolves in the rooms where the dead snatchers are. So it's like, oh, they're the
Mm-hmm.
things that were in the bag. They came to life. So, like, One Reborn's just a really big one of those. Like, I don't think it's part of Mensis's plan. It's just something that happens when the Thumerians show up and start fucking with everything.
I I think it's like, or at least look in my game. What happened is they kidnapped me once, scared the
Yeah,
crap out of me. I go get to level 10 billion, come back there, and I start one-shotting things.
yeah.
And they're like, "This is unacceptable. We gotta get a big boss to kick her butt." And
Okay,
that's
did
why
it
they
work?
summoned the One Reborn. No, because I was already level billion. Like nothing worked. I had a weapon level
Okay,
0, and I
yeah.
was level billion. I literally like three-shotted. What was her name? The last boss.
Moon Presence.
Yeah, the Moon
Yeah,
Presence was the easiest one. I was just like, boom,
yeah.
boom. Okay, done. This game's easy. Yeah. I don't know if you're supposed to play the game this way.
You play it whatever way is comfortable for you.
Question 2 from Victor. Hi. What are your favorite examples of FromSoft drawing visual inspiration from something while completely ignoring everything other than the aesthetic of it? I had notes, but the more I thought of this question, like we know they're using like Catholicism to represent not Catholicism. They take cathedrals from I don't know Europe, and like it's a cathedral from Orlando now. Isn't it beautiful? But like that style is not my favorite. What I like is like horror and fleshy things. That's my favorite, and they don't have much of that in like.
I don't know if it's ever been specified, but I think the research hall patients are
Oh yeah, they're
kind
pretty
of taken
fleshy.
from Matango, which is a Japanese horror movie about people who are possessed by
Yeah.
mushrooms.
Oh, that looks more like the Winter Lanterns, though.
And like there's obviously like there's a Junji Ito influence on Bloodborne.
Prove it. Oh no, there's one inspiration. Yes, I know it. It's
Okay.
cut
She's
content.
literally holding her head now like she's Professor X using psychic powers. So we know it's going to be good. Okay, go, go.
Oh my god, I think they were called either Screamers or Screaming something. It's cut content and it's a little alien egg, remember?
Oh, yeah, yeah, they're just called Screamers, yeah.
Screamers, yeah, that's my
Yeah,
favorite.
yeah. What's that from?
My favorite, it's inspired by Alien.
The egg in that doesn't walk, though.
No, no, yeah, no.
No.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah, no, it's egg from Alien.
Yeah.
And it's called Screamers. Is
Yeah, so
anything in Alien
what
called
Sin's referring
Screamers?
to is an unused
Yeah.
early version of the what became what they're just called the Wandering Madnesses. So
Mm-hmm.
the idea is there were these little like was a little egg thing. It looked like Sin saying it looked like the egg from Alien with like little octopus
Mm-hmm.
tentacles, and you would hear it go when it noticed you,
Yeah.
and it'd try scurrying away. And if you killed it, it would drop upgrade items. And I think the idea is like the screaming was supposed to alert you that there was one present. They're in some of the test, like they still work. They're in the test dungeons, but
And
they
one of
didn't
the
go with
runes
them.
looked like the alien. Which one was that?
Oh,
Was it
guidance
Guidance?
or
It was
beast.
like
It was one of the ones that's like a
Beast.
hand.
Beast. Yeah. I think it was Beast.
Is this is a deep cut because this is like a video you made in was it like
Like
2016 I think
6 or 7 years ago. It's a joke. Yeah. And that's ironically enough, that's the video that made you want to collab with me for the first time.
it was actually, yeah.
Yeah, let me vet her. Oh yeah, this is great.
No, but I didn't know who you were. You just sent me like here's my channel and I just randomly and I thought it was going to be like
The story of Bloodborne is so dark and confusing, and no one can possibly understand it.
But it was actually, you had like wacky music in the background. It's like the
Yeah.
Garden of Eyes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, good. I found the one good Bloodborne channel.
What about you, Sophie? What's your favorite visual example of that?
You brought up like Catholicism a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and like yeah, there's a lot of it in the Souls games, and like you were saying, it's used a lot, but it's used to stand for something else. Like a really good example actually is in Dark Souls 1, going way back. There's these like statues of a woman, and she's wearing like a shawl. People got obsessed over who is this supposed to be. I'm just like, they probably just put that there because they're trying to create like a church aesthetic, and they've seen that lots of churches have like images of Mary. It's like, oh well, that's what goes in
Mm-hmm.
a church, is
Yeah.
this statue. But like people took that like hyper literally and were like, oh well, this must be Gwyn's secret wife, and that means the baby is Solea and stuff like that. Um, yeah, and like we've talked a bit about like the use of the Pieta
Yeah.
to depict Lawrence, and Lawrence is not a Christ figure at all. Like Lawrence is a mad scientist who makes werewolves. But like the Pieta pose, like it's used constantly, and like there's fucking, I think Batman's done the Pieta before. The use of that imagery is not like, I feel like I'm back in that episode of Saturday Night Snack Covenant that I had to cut almost an
Oh
hour out of. But
no.
like the use of that imagery, like it's not like a one-to-one cipher of like, oh, you
Hmm.
recognize this, well now it means this is a secret ending. Um, because like it's just like they're using those icons to stand in for like, hey, this is a divine thing, this is a sacred thing, not this is literally Catholicism. I think like that's kind of like important to talk
Yeah.
about. And like Marika in Elden Ring, like when you meet her, like it's fairly inarguable that like Marika's initial depiction is taken from like depictions of Christ. Like she's in the crucifix pose, she's like stuck to this thing, and she's got this
Yeah.
spear that's shoved through her body, like Christ's side being pierced by the lance. But again, Marika not a Christ
Yeah.
figure. Like Marika is someone who is sending the message to her children that like, I want you all to fight each other to see who is strongest, and
Hmm.
she's like putting people through all these trials to like create someone who's like worthy of being her consort and stuff like that. And like she treats the people around her very badly. Like she uses her first husband and then gets rid of him when he's no longer useful, and then she marries someone else. And like the thing that motivates her is like she's doing like genocide as a revenge for something. It's like none of this is remotely like Christ-like at
Yeah.
all. Like it's the antithesis of that. Like the America
Yeah.
doesn't care about like forgiveness or love or any of these things, but
Hmm.
she's still depicted in that pose because like they're using that pose to represent like, yeah, this is someone who like, you know, is a holy person, is like a god who is being punished for something. And even down to like the way that the Souls games, I'm having flashbacks to 2015 again, but like the way that the Souls games, they use, when I say they use, I mean the English translations use, they use words like saint, and they will use the iconography of saints, which have specific meanings, but the
Hmm.
Souls games are using it to just stand in for like, this person is holy.
Yeah.
Because I remember people literally going on like, well, if this character in Dark Souls is a saint, that means they must have performed this number of miracles, and then they have to be canonized officially. And it's like, no, it doesn't mean that in Dark Souls, though. In Dark Souls, it just means this is just like a holy wandering person. And again, like the wandering priests in Dark Souls, they're not particularly saintly people. Like most of them are kind of mercenary, and they'll betray you. And yeah.
Good job, Sophie. Thank you.
So the next question, this is actually two questions, but they sort of were addressing the same thing. So we're asking them together.
Hmm. If you could pitch a game to FromSoft (parentheses new IP) for something that fits well enough with the studio style that it could realistically get published but feels fresh and new in a way that is interesting to you, what would it be? Also, hello, what new biome would you like to see in a FromSoft game? Um, like,
Sin?
I don't know. I feel like if I want something from Software, they would have
Uh-huh.
to use a new engine and come up with
Mm-hmm.
something like completely new. It wouldn't be something that they've done before necessarily. It wouldn't be like a
Yeah.
Souls game. It would
Right.
have to be like a better like a Scorn game, like a better Scorn game. That's what I
What?
want.
Okay, but like, say Sekiro, right?
Yeah.
Sekiro's using the same engine, basically,
Mhm.
that they've been
Yeah.
using since Demon Souls, but like that's not really a Souls game.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that. I'm tired of fighting.
But like the first batch of From Software games on the PlayStation 1, like those
Yeah.
all use the same engine, but it's with
Mhm.
the exception like Kingsfield and Shadow Tower are similar in that they're both like
Yeah.
dungeon crawls, but like Kingsfield slash Shadow Tower, but then also like the Armored Core games and the Echo Knight games on PlayStation 1.
Mhm.
Those are all the same engine, but it's
Mhm.
we'll say 3.5. 3.5
Yeah.
completely different. It's sort of three and a half different genres done
Mhm.
with the same engine
Yeah.
and basically the same gameplay and the same input. And like, if you like, I remember playing Kingsfield and realizing like, oh, the menu sounds are the same menu sounds they use in Armored Core. As in bloop things. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When people say like, "Oh, aren't you sick of the fact that they've been making the same game since 2009?" It's like not as much as you would think because like I think most of those games even if they had like very similar gameplay, they were all kind of exploring different ideas. So like it didn't bother me that Bloodborne played very similarly to Dark Souls but faster and with
Mhm.
no shield because it was exploring different terrain, like thematically. And like part of the reason I felt like Dark Souls 3 didn't land in the way the others did was because like thematically Dark Souls 3 felt like it was just going back to Dark Souls 1 again. Like it was doing like, the fire is fading and like should the world just die and move on or should we sustain it? It was doing that again. It's like, okay, well like I get that like a lot of people do like Dark Souls 3 a lot because it's faster. Like it's an iteration on the way combat worked in Bloodborne. Like I completely get if like Dark Souls 3 is your favorite. I'm not saying that it's bad or anything. But from a story
Mhm.
point of view, like it felt like a direct sequel to 1, a game that didn't need a sequel. And part of the reason that like Dark Souls 2 I think is a good sequel to 1 is that it's not actually a direct narrative sequel to it. It's looking at what 1 did and kind of commenting on it and kind of unpacking the ideas behind it. What would you like to see them do though? Like if you had like come up with a concrete idea that's not just not Souls.
Well, I personally, like I said, I personally like things that are horror, that
Yeah.
are walking simulators,
Yeah.
and stuff that's scorn like essentially, like Dead
Yeah.
Space like. Either in space, like I want them to make an Event Horizon game. Maybe like look at Outlast mechanics.
Outlast in space. You want that's essentially what they did with Echo Knight Beyond because that's like a horror game set in a haunted space station.
Okay, so then they need to remake that. I ain't
Except
paying
that
to
was
just
ghosts,
remake.
it wasn't like flesh. So I don't know how
Okay,
you feel
make it
about that.
fleshy though, like
Okay, make
demon
it fleshy.
flesh. Like
Miyazaki, make it fleshy. Love Sophie.
oh, what about you, Sophie?
Thank you, Sin. Um, so I like I've mentioned before, like I grew up playing the old Armored Core games.
Hmm.
And one of the things about them is like they're very dilapidated. Like Armored Core One's technically like it's technically post-apocalyptic because everyone's hiding underground from like this devastating thing that's happened on the surface. But if you look at like the environments there, it's just like
Hmm.
cities, and there's a lot of like urban and industrial decay in them that I think works really well on the PlayStation One because it's kind of low poly and it's got that like muddy low res look to it that sort of like the original Doom had. So you just see all these like pixels that sort of like vaguely like concrete and metal and wire that are just kind of like falling to pieces, and there's all this like rust and like abandoned sort of like sterile locations and things like that. And I really like that, and I feel like the thing that happened with Armored Core is like when they made the mechs faster, they started moving toward just big open spaces, which like obviously makes sense if the mech is moving like a jet plane. You can't have it running around indoors. But yeah, there was a lot of just like big empty deserts with occasional buried skyscrapers in them. And I would really like them to sort of go back to like the almost dungeon crawl kind of claustrophobic urban decay feel that the early Armored Core games had, where you're just like this like levels just set in like an old parking lot. Yeah, so I'd like to see them do like an urban kind of like brutalist, like decaying industrial urban space, kind of like
Mhm.
I don't mean this in a mean way, but like kind of like what we thought Ghostwire Tokyo was going to be like.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like them to do just like a. I guess they sort of did that in Ninja Blade a little bit, but like I just like the idea of like a. Yeah, maybe like I don't think they would ever realistically go back to doing like small scale things like Kuon, even though I wish they would. It's actually interesting to think about. Like, I brought this up a lot at the time, and it's sort of like it's less obvious now because Elden Ring is so huge. But like, Bloodborne was when it was first talked about. It was like, oh yeah, this is set. It's entirely in a city. So there was a sense it was going to be this like kind of more claustrophobic space than
Yeah.
Dark Souls was. But then when you play it, it's like actually the streets in this city are significantly wider than a lot of the paths you get in Dark Souls 1. And that's why like I bring up repeatedly like that little tiny bit of Cathedral Ward. And it feels like a relic from like an older design methodology where it's like there's all these like interconnected alleyways. There's like a big long central street and there's alleyways you can duck into to avoid the things on the street. But then also, as you're going through the alleyways, there's like bottles you can knock over that make noise, and there's dogs, and if they see you, they'll start barking. And it's like, oh, this is like playing a stealth game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except it's not, because the rest of Bloodborne isn't really like this. And also, the thing about Bloodborne is that like you actively want to get in fights with people, so you can get more blood echoes. Like this is the thing when people say Bloodborne was survival horror. It's like kind of it has survival horror like encounter design sort of, but like the whole thing about survival horror is you have limited resources and they're
Mhm.
gradually going down. So you're trying like if you play Resident Evil, you're trying to avoid getting in fights with zombies because they'll deplete your resources, whereas in Bloodborne your resources are essentially infinite because everything's going to drop blood echoes.
Oh.
But yeah, I would like that. I would like creepy, decaying 21st century urban city.
Yeah. Thank you, Lexi and Bob Versino. Next question is from Kimmy. Why does the Estus flask kills you? Well, to answer this question, we have to think back to Dark Souls. So, the light and the dark and the light.
Binaries. That's a very
Right.
off base reading.
I apologize. So the Age of Fire, if we look at it, represents a new age. It represents like a new beginning and represents life, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like literal flames as a sort of like in-game representation of it.
Yeah.
And some of the flames are little bonfires that you find and that you can like save at and like resurrect at and do whatever
Mhm.
at. And so you have these flasks where you essentially what you're doing is you're kind of refilling them at the bonfire, filling them with this like essence of light and life. And basically you bottle up the age in your flask.
Yeah, no, that's like yeah, because like the word Estus for reference, like it comes from the Latin word for heat.
Mhm.
It's literally just like you have bottled a bonfire. It's like having a little portable bonfire, essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The thing that interests me though about Estus is like so in Dark Souls 2, the Emerald Herald gives you a feather at one point.
Yes.
and it's called the Aged Feather. And in game, it's a little random. She's just like, have a feather. Cool. Now you have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
feather that warps you back and forth from bonfires, like a kind of infinite use homeward bone. But like, it's never really remarked upon. It's never like specified why she has it. Like, it's not specified why it's aged. It's not specified why it's a feather at all. It's not specified why she has it. It's just like, it seems really random, as a lot of things in
Mm-hmm.
Dark Souls 2 do, because it was quite heavily rewritten at the 11th hour. But like, if you watch the trailer for Dark Souls 2, they make a really, really big point of that scene. Like, it's presented
Yeah.
really dramatically as like she puts in your hand and she like clasps it, and there's like a close up of her face, and it's like the feather. And it's like, well, what does it deal with the feather? It's just like a feather. Like, she's not mentioned the feather before or anything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so then like way later on, like there's the Dark Souls 2 data mining going on, and they dredge up this like block of unused text, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
100% clear which version this is from. Like, is this from the original Shibuya version, or is this from like an early draft of the Tanamura version? We don't 100% know, but like, it's got the Emerald Herald in it. And like, this is a reasonably well-known thing, but there's like this section where you're going back in time and you meet the child Emerald Herald and you give her a feather. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's why in the trailer it's presented as this big dramatic moment, because you're
Yeah.
getting back the feather you gave her as a child. And that's why it's called the aged feather, because she's been carrying it with her for like however long, like 20 years or
Yeah.
something. So she's got this feather, but then if you read the dialogue that the child Emerald Herald has when you give her the feather in the past, she's like, oh, it's Estintia's feather. Estintia's feather is good luck, and she calls it over and over again, Estintia's feather, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
as far as I'm aware, like, I checked, and like, unless it's a really kind of mangled way of writing it, I don't think there's anything called Estintia, like, anywhere else. This is the one instance of that name.
Mm-hmm.
But you'll notice, like, Estintia is est, like, it starts with est, like Estus, and like, I
Yeah.
checked the way it's written in Japanese, and yeah, it's literally, they're written the same way. It's like est, but one is Estus and one is Estintia. And it's really notable that like this thing that's got the same name kind of as the stuff from the bonfire, its power is that it warps you to and from bonfires. Like, it's connected to the bonfires even though it's a feather. So it's like there's some thing called Estintia in this version of the world that is like presumably a bird, and it's linked to the bonfires. And there's some that, but that's kind of all we know.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if like it was maybe like something like a phoenix, because when I'm just spitballing here, but when you think about like birds and fires, it's like, oh yeah, like was this Stintia like a phoenix thing? Was there meant to be like a bird that was born from the fire or something? Because there's a bunch of bird designs in Dark Souls 2. And like one of them really, really, really looks like a phoenix, but also that one is from a fan shield design contest. So I don't know how much weight to put on it when we're talking about like what they're writing behind the scenes at the time, but we'll never know.
Oh no, that's too bad. We need the Shibuya cut.
Thank you, Sin.
Um, Thank you, Kimi. The next question is by Parasitic Wall Hugger. Hi! I've always wondered what exactly is the statue behind Ariandel in Dark Souls 3. That one that has a fur coat and a wooden mannequin-like body covered with snakeskin. Does it have something to do with Priscilla? That's a good question.
Long pause. Well, okay, like what do you remember of that? Ashes of Ariandel was also something like before we were doing stuff together. So like what's your
Was
memory of
it?
that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ashes of
Oh
Ariandel was
yeah. Yeah,
2016. Yeah, yeah,
You know what?
yeah,
I actually did a funny trailer review, like a little
yeah,
trailer analysis that was
yeah,
2 minutes. I predicted which one was Ariandel. Nobody else in the community did.
yeah. And I'm not even gonna laugh at you for that, because I remember IGN thinking that was Guinevere.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was a formative moment in my "why the fuck do I bother" arc.
Yeah. So, long story short, the game never explicitly tells us what it is. However, if we look at, at the game, if we look at the art, what we see is like the sort of a mannequin with a wooden tail. If we look at it on the artwork, it's clearly
Yeah.
a fur coat reminiscent of like Priscilla,
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's a literal snake skin unturring, embalming, like what do you call it? Unturring.
Shouldn't you know you've been playing Mortuary Assistant?
Yeah, oh my god. I'm trying to think of the word when it goes around. The snake skin goes around the wooden part. Wait, let me look at a picture of Father Ariandel.
Just look up a picture of Guinevere.
So, you know what? Father Ariandel is actually wearing a very like extravagant also furish coat.
Mm-hmm. To be fair, it's very cold there.
Why? Because Father Ariandel is a drag queen. Drag
Okay.
queens always like accentuate the curves.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah.
look at them, it's almost like a different person than like their non-drag persona.
His drag persona is Guinevere. We just established that. So the thing about that statue is like we've sort of been hinting at, it's not really like a statue
Mm-hmm.
because it has this snake tail to it, but the snake tail is segmented. It's designed
Mm-hmm.
to be like to move, like it's like cylindrical bits of wood with like links in between them.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's made of wood. So if you're thinking in terms of like a statue, this is kind of weird because like it's posable and it's made out of wood. You would expect like if
Mm-hmm.
this is like a big sort of like altar statue like you see elsewhere in the painted world, like it would be made of stone. It would be like a big stone statue. But yeah, this almost feels like it is like a mannequin. The Priscilla stuff is like has not gone unnoticed by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing about Ashes of Ariandel and Priscilla is like it is supposed to be like the same painted world. It's just that they've repainted parts of it. So like parts of the painted world of Ariandel, like they're completely new. Other parts of it are sort of like broadly the same. Like it's still like a snowy place with a forest. It still has these long bridges over chasms. There's still like a church with this sort of like weird contraptions under it. But then also parts of it are completely different. But then the one part of it that's like pretty much one to one exactly the same as Priscilla's arena. So it's flagging up like, hey, remember Priscilla, she's still kind of relevant to this place. And when you're in
Mm-hmm.
Priscilla's arena, you get invaded by an NPC who drops a unique pyroflame. And that pyroflame mentions that like this pyromancer is called Dunnel. It's like, yeah, Dunnel, he was affected by the loss of like what it just calls his hideous spouse. Based on like the fact it mentions that and the fact that Dunnel's in Priscilla's room, I sort of wonder if like is it referring to Priscilla? Like is Priscilla the hideous spouse because Priscilla's like this gigantic like half human, half dragon creature. So I think it's kind of getting you to think about Priscilla, like very deliberately kind of flagging her up as something that was in the painted world. And then like we were saying, the statue has like elements of Priscilla in it. Like it's got like the fur coat because Priscilla wears a fur coat. And it's got the long tail, but like the thing about Priscilla is like she's fluffy. Like she's a dragon and she's got
Mm-hmm.
some scales on her, but she's mostly fluffy as opposed to snaky. In Ariandel's room as well, there is that big mural that depicts like the two figures reaching into like the sort of black flame and what they're holding snakes. And like again, like the black flame, like we've talked about this before, but there's like the black flame in the abyss and there's like the hollows reaching up out of the black flame. And the two figures there I think are supposed to be the other two sisters from the Sable Church because they both wear black and they're both like the servants of the primordial serpents, specifically the servants of Karth. Or one of them specifically is servant of Karth, the other one doesn't talk. So that mural seems to like be referring to them. Um, and like that has a very obvious like snake motif in it. And then when you go to the Ringed City, there's also like a bunch of weird snake stuff there. Like there's the statues of the serpents and everything else in the Ringed City. So it's like there seems to be some kind of connection there, but like I don't know where the snake skin is supposed to be from. Like, okay, this is like super deep cut shit, but like, we've talked about this a couple of times, I think, but like, inarguably, right? This is something that like we have seen, and I'll put up a screenshot of it on this part of the video. They did make a new primordial serpent texture for Dark Souls 3. So like, it's completely unused, but at some point they did have the idea of including the primordial serpents on screen in Dark Souls 3, and it got far enough for them to make a texture out of it. So like, it was presumably seriously considered if they went this far. And I just want to be clear, like, this is going to be some questions here. It's not an upscaled version of the texture from Dark Souls 1. It's completely original. And the other thing about it that is significant is that it's set up so it would work on something that wasn't moving. Because like, if you look at the texture for the primordial serpents in Dark Souls 1, the eyes are a separate part. So like, they don't have like eyes on their face, they just have the sockets, and the eyes are separate objects because that's what lets the eyes move around. Like, they're a separate part of the model, so they're textured separately. This texture has the eyes in the sockets. So like, presumably it's, I've been back and forth on this and I don't know. Like, I've talked to Eugenio about it a fair amount. That like, it's either a corpse or a statue of a primordial serpent.
Okay.
And I'm thinking like, it might actually have intended to be Karth's corpse, because Yuri has got the line about Karth being dead. I'm like, oh, was Karth's corpse going to show up in this at some point? And like, Yuria's name internally is Servant of Karth. So it's like, yeah, okay, they were seriously thinking of Karth having a bigger role than he currently does, which is to be mentioned once. But like, Eugenio sort of sees it as more like, well, what if this was like a statue of a primordial serpent, or it was like an altar with like a dead primordial serpent on it. I do wonder if this is some sort of like, there was some point going to be like, the Sable Church had Karth's body propped up, and they were like, maybe it was like Karth's skin over like a wooden frame, and they're worshipping it, and like, over the 5 billion revisions Dark Souls 3 story had, it somehow became like maybe Priscilla. The other alternative, if you want to look at it like symbolically, is that Frida shows up in Ariandel, and then it says she takes on the form of the thing that the people in Ariandel are worshipping, right? Which is Velka. This is the one time we'll actually sincerely talk about Velka theories, I promise. So like, Frida, like, specifically, she's taking on the form of Velka, so she looks like the statues of Velka. And I'm wondering, like, is that meant to be a symbolic thing that, like, Frida, in a sense, like, shed her skin? She's cast off being Frida and become Velka. But yeah, like, as it is, like, it's just one of the most confusing things in the game. But, like, it's sort of like the Aged Feather we were talking about before, where, like, it's really never properly explained, but there's enough there that it connects to a bunch of other things. So we're like, yeah. I mean, this presumably meant something at some point. It's not just like completely random, but we probably won't know because Dark Souls 3 went through so many revisions. Yeah. Isn't it interesting that like they make a big deal out of the Sword of Avowal being a thing from Londor, and they keep talking about Londor, and then in the DLC you go to a place that's got all these sort of Avowal designs everywhere, but it's not Londor.
Okay, but it's explained at Angel's Egg.
Is Angel's Egg even explained in Angel's Egg?
Absolutely not.
You have to watch Angel's Egg while playing the Ringed City. And then if you beat it at the exact point that Angel's Egg ends, you'll understand both of them. All right, so our sixth and final question was actually asked by Sin. All right, so hi, Sin.
Hello.
Hi, thank you for coming in today. So can we start with you just explaining the nature of the problem that you're having with Oscar?
Well, the nature of the problem is that Oscar shows up at my house, maybe even like breaks into my house, throws a key in my face, and tells me, go do some adventuring.
What I'm hearing from you is that you feel like Oscar is expecting something of you.
Yeah, he definitely is. He's like those door-to-door salesmen that kind of just like push their way in and try to sell you stuff, and you're like, no thanks, and they're like, well, actually, and you're like, no, please leave. And he like didn't leave. He threw stuff in my face, and he's like, go do that now.
And what did you do after that?
Well, look, I don't know what happened between me and the demon, but then I'm just coming out of my apartment trying to be like, I'm just gonna go ahead and clear my head, and then turns out Oscar got himself smashed by a boulder. And then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go outside. This is not my problem. And then the demon is all pissed off. And I'm like, oh my God, he pissed off the demon. So now I have to leave. I have no choice but to go on an adventure because the demon doesn't want me there anymore. There's a dead guy in the hallway. And it just feels like he literally turned my entire life upside down. And I just like really don't appreciate it.
So you mentioned that Oscar is crushed by a boulder.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's maybe resolved the situation now that Oscar's been crushed by a boulder?
Well, no, because then when everything settled down and I'm like, okay, it's time to go back home, things are okay, I come back and he's there again alive.
Do you feel like he continued to make demands after he came back to life?
I feel like there's a lot of burden put on me by him that I did not ask for.
Yeah, so you feel like he's making demands of you again even after his death and resurrection.
Yeah, even after he's dead, he still won't leave me alone. And I don't know, I've been thinking a lot about him, and the more I think of him, the more pissed off I get at him with his little accent and his little attire and his little attitude and his little, go on an adventure and immediately gets killed. Like, who are you to tell me to go somewhere where you literally don't know how to use the fucking stairs? Like, how is that a thing?
So can you tell me a little bit about what you did afterward? Like, did you escape the asylum? Did you actually go on this adventure?
Yeah, kinda. It wasn't very fun.
Yeah.
It was really troubling and disturbing, and I met a really disturbed royal family where everybody's like, I don't know, intermarried and inter-traumatized. And I'm like, I don't even need to know this. I didn't even know where I was going, what I was doing. He didn't leave me any instructions, and it's just like, and there were some snakes, and I'm like, oh my God, what is happening? This makes no sense.
So what I'm getting from you is that you did actually reach the city of the gods at the end.
Yeah.
So I feel like the fact that you did reach the city of the gods, that says a lot about, you as a person. It says that you are persistent and you can overcome things.
Oh my God, you're right.
Maybe think about, getting that strength of character and that persistence that you displayed in reaching the city of the gods. And put that toward maybe trying to work through the issues that you're having with Oscar.
Yeah, but he's dead now. I may or may not have stabbed him when he came back to life.
But you're not entirely sure if he's alive or not.
I will not confirm nor deny these allegations.
All right, so we're really interested in how you feel, though. This is not necessarily about you having a face-to-face discussion with Oscar, because I think a lot of what you've...
a knife-to-face discussion.
A lot of what you've told me sort of suggests that the relationship with Oscar, it's very one-sided. You feel like he's talking at you. So maybe trying to have a face-to-face discussion with Oscar at this point is not really the issue. We should work on maybe just getting this aspect of the relationship under control before you go back and speak to Oscar. What I want you to do now is I want you to imagine that another chosen undead has come up to you and they're telling you what you just told me. So I want you to think about the kind of answer you would give them. So it's sort of about stepping outside of this, looking at it from an outsider's point of view. What advice would you give to someone else having this problem?
You did nothing wrong. You're 100% correct. Oscar is a piece of shit that flung his keys into your face. Think he flung an Estus flask in your face too. That's totally unacceptable. And he deserves to be crushed by a boulder. Exactly.
So I'm going to get up out of this chair. And I want you to imagine that Oscar is sitting in the chair. And I just want you to tell Oscar the things that you wish you could have told him back then.
Punch, 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 stab, 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 punch, knee to the face, punch, elbow, stab. I do feel much better. This was excellent, and I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm cured. Thank you.
And I think maybe in 2 weeks' time we should meet up again, discuss if anyone else in Lordran is getting on your nerves.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Sophie, do the outro.
That was Soul's Mixtape Episode 8, 2.
We covered a lot of questions. We talked about Oscar. We got some therapy and resolved our issues. It was a good time. As we were me, and
Alex.
we were watching Angel's Act together, and for some reason, I had like a vision of like if my dad were to watch this at the end, he would be like, "What was that shit? What a waste of time." Anyway, let's watch The Beekeeper. Like,
Remember when you were telling me, like, your dad's favourite movie was Priest?
priest, yeah.
And I was thinking, yeah, because Priest is the name of this, like, really controversial drama about, like, a priest grappling with the sacrament of confession and homosexuality and stuff.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
came out in the 90s, thinking, oh, okay, your dad's got some highbrow taste, and you actually meant an action movie called Priest where, like, Paul Bettany fights vampires.